I'm Dana K. White of aslobcomesclean.com, author of Decluttering at the Speed of Life, and today I'm talking about how to get rid of stuff. I teach decluttering strategies. I have a 5-step process that helps you make your decluttering decisions, helps you decide what needs to stay, what needs to go, and yet a lot of people get stuck on the actual getting it out of the house. So I'm going to talk about that today. Spoiler alert, I'm all about donating. I have decided that getting stuff out as quickly and easily as possible, huge amounts of stuff at one time, that is the way to go for me. That's what helps me build decluttering momentum. But I know that there are a lot of people who, if you just say, oh, you need to donate everything, it's the quickest way. There's a lot of people who are like, don't tell me that, I can't do that, but, you know, because that was me. Like, I was that person. I was the person who at one time saw dollar signs attached to everything in my house because I was an eBay seller. That's what I did to earn extra money. And so I was obsessed with milking the money out of things as I got rid of them. And so I understand how hard it is to get to this point where you're like, okay, donating is the way to go. So I get that there's like a gap there. So I'm going to talk through the different ways to get rid of things. Just so you know, it always goes like this. You want to do less work, you're going to get less money. Got it? Those things go together. All right. So let's start with eBay. The reason I start with eBay is that if you know that something is valuable and you want to get the most possible value from it, that is a place that's accessible to any random person to be able to do that. Okay. For you to be able to sell it to someone directly and get its real value. Now, I did a video not too long ago where I talked about how to find out something's real value or get a really good idea of it at least by going to eBay. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the actual selling it, okay? Here's the pros of eBay. You have a large group of people all over the country, possibly the world if you want to deal with that kind of shipping, who might be specifically looking for this item, okay? And they might actually understand the value of this item. So that's a huge pro, right? But there are cons. The cons are that it's a lot of work. You have to give a very detailed description. You have to know whether it works or doesn't work, or if it has any kind of damage. You have to disclose all of that kind of stuff ahead of time. And it's a little complicated. There is a learning curve there. And so the first time that you ever sell something, you may not know all the different things that you should know to really be able to do it well there. So there is a learning curve. You may not get exactly what you wanted, but there is a chance of that happening, okay? And just a warning, if you've never done it before, shipping is the area where a lot of people really end up losing money if they don't know what they're doing. So there's a lot to learn there. So the work comes in the learning, the prepping of the item, the photographing of the item, the very detailed description. Okay, but the payoff is that, yes, technically you could connect with somebody who really sees the value of this item that you're wanting to sell. Next, there's Craigslist, okay? You are not going to get as much for something on Craigslist as you could potentially get on eBay if an auction made the price go higher and higher, okay? Craigslist is more state the price and people are going to tell you what they want to pay or not. So one advantage of Craigslist over eBay is that you can eliminate the need for shipping and say, I'm only going to sell this to someone local. That also eliminates, you know, more audience for you of people who might want to buy it. But then you don't have to be quite as detailed because the person is actually going to see it before they come and pick it up. The disadvantage there is that you're going to have back and forth with buyers, all right? Or people who just thought they'd ask you a question about it and you think they're a buyer and they're not a buyer. And sometimes they say that they want something and then you email them back and say, okay, when are you going to get it? And they never email you back. Meanwhile, the other 3 people who said they wanted it, but you said it was already gone, now they don't want it anymore. I mean, it can just be a real hassle, a lot of time and effort of back and forth there, okay? The other issue is safety. If you're going to be meeting people in person, you have to take safety into consideration. I'm sure there are YouTube videos on how to do that safely. All I'm going to tell you is be careful, okay? You're talking about random strangers and you need to be careful and be safe in how you deal with that, okay? Then you have Facebook Marketplace, similar in a lot of ways to Craigslist. One of the reasons why I put it after Craigslist on value is, y'all, I have seen in the last year or so, like, oh my goodness, because people can comment on Facebook listings. There are people who are like so rude. If they think something is not worth what somebody else asked for it, they will say horrible things in the comments. So I feel like that puts it under Craigslist as far as, you know, this list that we're making, right? One of the big pros for Facebook is that on Facebook, if you search where you live, your county, your city, your area, and you search buy, sell, local, or swap group, or online garage sale, or words like that, buy, sell, trade, things like that, you're gonna find super specifically local people. You know, I live in Dallas. Dallas is really big. I can't narrow it down quite as much in Craigslist like I can in Facebook. I can say, okay, I only want to see stuff from this specific area. So that is an advantage. Again, that limits your pool of buyers. So you're probably not going to be able to drive up the price of something and get absolute worldwide top value on it. The negative of Facebook Marketplace is similar to Craigslist, meaning you're gonna have a lot of back and forth. I feel like there's even more of that on Facebook Marketplace because it does show up in people's Facebook feeds. And so you have a lot of people who are just casually interested but not actually gonna follow through. So you end up with a lot of back and forth with people, which can be very time consuming and very frustrating. And again, the biggest thing to consider is if you are dealing with people face to face, you need to be cautious about safety. If you're gonna be meeting up with somebody or having someone come to your house, you have to really consider safety, personal safety there. All right, and then let's talk about resale shops, consignment stores, big consignment events. I know that these are really popular. I believe Just Between Friends, don't quote me on that. I think that's what it's called. They'll have a sale that runs for like a week or a weekend, and you get everything together and you take it there and they sell it, and then you get a check or something like that at the end. Don't quote me on that, but similar type things of like taking it to a consignment store, taking some of your antiques to an actual antique dealer, something like that. The biggest pro there is that this is someone else's business. So they are experts. They get to be the expert at connecting with the right buyers, okay? So that's the biggest perk of this, is you feel like if I'm gonna take my antique to an antique dealer, they know what it's worth, and they also deal with people who know what the stuff they're selling is worth. Make sense? They're not just unloading things. But the disadvantage of this is that they know what sells and what doesn't, so they don't want all of your stuff. They're pretty picky about it. I looked up the guidelines for one of these types of sales. It was 4 pages long, very detailed, lots of things that they said, we don't accept anything in this category. We don't accept anything in this brand. We don't accept anything that's over 5 years old. So there were like lots and lots of things. And when you bring it has to be in perfect condition, can't have any kinds of flaws. It has to be hung on a hanger or whatever, it has to be tagged in a certain way. So it's a lot of work, which may absolutely be worth it to you. But also, I have known a lot of people who have taken stuff to one of these resale shops and they accepted like 3 items out of a huge tub full of their kids' clothes. So there's pros and there's cons, okay? And that's how all of this works. And then there's garage sales. I love garage sales. Like that's actually how I got into my clutter mess, was garage sales. So I don't go to them like I used to, but I loved going to garage sales. I knew enough from going to garage sales that I knew how to have a great garage sale. I should do videos on that at some point. So having a garage sale, the pro is that it can be great motivation to give yourself a deadline, like an actual date on the calendar. Go ahead and make the date, where I am going to go through my entire house and get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. And that deadline is so helpful sometimes for those of us who tend to procrastinate otherwise without a deadline. So that can be a huge advantage of having a garage sale. You also have people coming to your house, they're seeing the item. So there's no like, I've got to describe it and go into great detail like you do when you're selling something online. Instead, they look at it, they decide if they want it, and then they carry it away out of your house, okay? So you can get rid of a lot of stuff at one time if you do it right, okay? And that's another thing, is you do need to know, how do garage sales work in my area? Where do I need to advertise? What kind of prices are people used to in this area? You know, because if you are wanting to sell things for $5 and $6 a piece, and yet everybody else in your area sells their kids' clothes for 50 cents a piece, people aren't really going to buy your $5 and $6 things. You know, so it means you don't want to go through all that work and not have known what works in your area and then find out, oh, I didn't actually sell anything. So finally, we're going to get to donating. But before I do that, there are ways to just offer things for free. Offering it on Facebook for free in groups of things like, hey, here's my entire kids' wardrobe, and maybe offer it to your friends. Just say, hey, anybody local want these? Those are great ways to get rid of large amounts of things quickly. You can also do things on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace according to the guidelines of specifically what you're doing. But you can say, hey, I have a pile of scrap metal. Does anybody want to come pick this up? There are a lot of people who like to come pick up scrap metal because then they'll go and sell it. You could go sell it yourself, but if you've decided I don't want to do that, then these Facebook groups, freecycle.org, those are places for you to offer something for free. I know there's like buy nothing groups. Here is my one thing that I have to be really careful. I try not to join those types of groups because when I join them to get rid of stuff, I often end up then getting emails or seeing things that other people are giving away for free. And that is hard on me because I am a collector of things and free is my favorite price. And so I have to be really careful about joining those types of things. So just be aware of that, that if you find, oh my goodness, I'm bringing more stuff into my home, it might be time for you to get out of those groups, okay? That is one of the reasons, as well as like the opposite of all the other reasons I've given today, why I like donating. Because what's the work involved in donating? Putting it in my donate box, okay? I like to donate to places that will take everything. So I went somewhere just this week. I dropped off a bunch of stuff and they took everything except one item, okay? And that was fine. Like I hadn't driven up there to give this one item away. They took everything except, I think it was lawn equipment. They weren't allowed to take that. So I was able to donate all kinds of things, kitchen things, clothing, school supplies, all sorts of different things. I just put it in 10 10 different boxes, and I just hauled it and dropped it all off at one place. That to me is the wonderfulness of donating, is I just keep filling up my donate boxes, and then when that one's full I get another one. I don't do a lot of sorting. I just make the decision, does this need to stay in my house or not, by using my 5-step decluttering process. And if the answer is no, it doesn't need to stay in my house, then it just goes into the donate box, okay? And then I can just get rid of that. If you live in an area, I don't, where people will come and pick up your donations, even better, okay? That is the greatest motivation, to take advantage of people coming and picking stuff up. And last of all, I do feel like I need to mention that even though we've been talking about either getting money for your stuff or giving it away, I think it's important when we talk about how to get rid of stuff to say that sometimes it is worth it to pay someone to haul your junk away. So there are lots of junk hauling services. There are probably big business types and small individuals who do this kind of stuff in your area. If you ask around or if you just search on the internet, you'll be able to find something. There is value in that. It can feel like, I can't believe I am paying someone to take this stuff away. But just like we always talk about, that pain in decluttering, that pain of actually shelling out money for someone to come take this stuff out of my house, is great motivation to not bring other stuff into my house in the future, right? Okay, but these services, I know the price may vary. It could be a couple $100s. It could be less than that. It's totally worth checking into and asking how much it would cost, because here's what happens. You still have to decide what you're getting rid of. No one is coming to your house and helping you actually make those decisions. That's what you're doing. But what they'll do, and ask them to see if that's what this place does, you point at something and then they take it. Some of them will advertise that they'll go all the way down in your basement, all the way up into your attic, and they will get the stuff out of the house. I have talked to so many people who've said, I hired a place like that. I never thought I would, and it was so worth the money, because I was able to say, take that rug that's under a bed, and they were able to get that out. But know kind of generally what you're gonna be asking of them, so that when you get a quote or when you talk to them about what you're gonna need, they actually have an understanding. But you're gonna have to do the work before they get there, right? To know exactly what it is you want them to take, because you don't wanna waste their time on that. All right. I hope that was helpful. I'm all about donating. I encourage you to donate. I think if you will try donating, the freedom and cleared space that you're going to experience is going to change your perspective on the value that you might otherwise be getting out of this stuff. But I also want to acknowledge that you may not be able to do that. You may have to use some of these other methods before you get to that donating point. But here's what I'm going to say. If you're decluttering, you have to get it out of your house. Once it's out of your house, then it is truly decluttered because it's gone and you never have to think about it or deal with it or handle it again. But what is not an option, I mean, it is an option because a lot of people go this way, but what I have to tell myself is not an option is for something to sit in my house because I'm thinking, oh, I could get money for, I should probably sell that. Oh, I hate that thing. I'm tripping over it. I can't stand it. It's getting in our way. It's causing life to be harder to live. But I should probably sell that someday. That's not an option. So go ahead, pick the thing that you are most confident really should be sold and try it with that one thing. Try selling that one thing, learn how it works and learn if it's worth your time or if it would actually be a whole lot easier just to give it away and let somebody else deal with it. Okay? All right, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.